Hello everybody, and welcome to How to Make Your Wife Happy and Healthy. In today's episode, I will show you how to make the very first dish I cooked for my wife. Well, technically that's not true. For one, she wasn't my wife at the time, and two, I was actually also cooking for my students when I was teaching in China. Wonder what American dish I was cooking for them in China? Well, come on everybody. Let's get cooking. So the dish we're making today is spaghetti. Yes, that's the first dish I made for my students in China and for my future wife. Although, technically it's not really spaghetti. It's really more of Italian sausage with a side of noodles, which I usually make as spaghetti. Today is also going to be a bonus item I'm going to prepare. The side dish with it that my kids just love. It's Parmesan cheese bread. It's really simple, really fast, and the kids love it. I can never make enough of it. So let's look at the ingredients for this prize-winning Italian sausage / spaghetti recipe. For cooking the Italian sausages, here's all the ingredients you're going to need. You're going to need some spaghetti, or whatever noodle you want to do on the side. You're going to need black pepper, basil. I'm using a dried basil version. Some sort of red wine, whatever brand you want. Cheap is fine. You don't need expensive wine to go with the dish you're going to cook. An onion, bell peppers, 1 or 2, stewed tomatoes, tomato sauce. Stewed tomatoes are nice because the stewed tomatoes, if they have spices already in them, which actually helps the dish a lot, and some Italian sausage. Now our favorite our kids love is the hot Italian sausage. So that's the one that my wife and kids really like the best. Now the first step in cooking this Italian sausage spaghetti recipe is to brown the sausage on all sides. Now it's going to take maybe 4 to 7 minutes per side to brown them all. You're going to put them all in the pan. A nice deep pot. Notice I'm using a nice deep pot. The deep pot is going to keep the sauce. So you just kick them once in this nice deep pot. You can see how deep the pot is. And you want to cook it at a medium to medium high temperature. So that's the setup I have here. The sausage, you can hear it starting to sizzle. And we're going to cook it again about 4 to 7 minutes. Just make sure each side is nice and brown. The browner, the better, because it's going to give you lots of flavor when you add in the wine. Alright, so while the sausage is cooking, you might be able to hear in the background, I am going to go ahead and get the other vegetables ready. We're going to cut the garlic. A nice half cut is fine. We're going to peel it very soon. It's going to be the next thing that we cook with. So I want to make sure it's ready. What I like to use with it, I use a garlic press. You can see the garlic press right here. I'm going to show you how a good way to clean it once you're done with it. But you just cut up the garlic, half it like that. We're going to peel it. Once you cut, it's easier to peel once you cut. If you don't have fresh garlic, you can always use garlic powder, but I don't know, I find the fresh one's going to get more aroma when you actually cook it. I'm going to take that 4 halves of garlic. I'm not going to do it yet, but I'm going to put it in my garlic press and get it ready. For the garlic press, we're going to get ready to press later. Alright, it's been about 4 minutes since I started cooking the sausage. I'm going to flip it over and you can see it's nice and brown. Hopefully all of it's nice and brown on one side. Got a good brown texture. If your pan is flat, you won't have that nice little bumpy, strange structure going on, but this is what I mean by brown sausage. That's pretty good right there. You can get it more brown if you like. So you flip it over and then go back to your other ingredients. Okay, next thing you're going to do here is going to prepare the bell pepper. We're going to cut it up. So I have to cut it, slice it right down the middle like that. You're going to peel out the inside, take out the inside. We don't want that part of it. You can take out all the seeds. Now, truthfully, my kids do not like the bell pepper. And that part, we actually take out once we get it cooked for them, because they won't eat that part. You can dispose of those seeds. Then you're going to cut it into nice big chunks. Nice big chunks. Don't matter if a few seeds get in, it's not a big deal. In China, yes, they did have bell peppers, so I was able to use bell pepper in China. But it wasn't the bell pepper you might expect. It was actually a little spicier than the bell peppers you get in America. So it wasn't so bad. It was a mild spice. It wasn't very spicy, so they could actually not burn their mouths. So it was closer to an actual Italian way that way. Ooh, a little loud. So big chunks are fine. It doesn't have to be small. I can smell the sausage and it looks like they're getting ready to be flipped again. So we got a nice brown on that side. Now we're going to flip it on its side. And brown it really well over here. Doesn't matter if you're going to cook them all the way through. That's not going to matter. You can really hear them sizzle. Because you're going to cut them up later. So actually getting them completely browned and completely cooked is not the problem. Because that'll be happening when we slow cook them later. Now these sausages, we didn't have any like this in China. Instead I used some, something like the Hillshire Farm sausage. All that prepared sausage, the smoked sausage you can buy that are prepared in the package, just cut them up and eat right away. That was the sauce I used in China. And it worked out okay, surprisingly enough. But these here, these are the real thing, and these are a whole lot better. I'm now going to get the onion prepped. It won't take very long to prep up the onion. I do it in a very fast, very easy way. Kids don't like onion either, so the onion, well, we pick it out for them as well. You want to make sure you cut through it at the top and bottom. Peel it off. We're going to peel off all the excess. I usually peel maybe one of them off so I can get to the more heart of the matter. From here I go ahead and wash it off, rinse it off. Okay, got our knife there, I'm going to cut it. And this is the easy way to cut it. Right down the middle of the first cut. Second cut. A little off the side, I'm going to cut it in thirds. And right down the middle. Good slices. Now we got all the vegetables ready. Our next step is to finish the sausage, and then we're going to take it out and cut it once it's finished. Plenty of onions in China. Had no problem finding this onion in China. Same as it was. Alright, let's check on our sausage. Okay, looking pretty good. Looking pretty done. We're going to get the burnt parts at the bottom of the pan. That's really where the flavor is going to be. And then we're going to use the wine. Some of you might want to use a stock, a chicken stock, if you're opposed to using wine. But you want to get all those bits that get cooked into the sauce. Hopefully there's more of them, so I'm going to keep continuing cooking it. Sometimes they break open, and that's perfectly okay. Okay, while we're waiting for this sausage to cook up nice and done on all sides, I'm going to get the water into my pot. Here's my big pot I use for the water. I'm just going to let it sit on the stove. I'm not going to actually start it yet or turn it on. Just going to let it sit there until I'm ready to start it. You'll see how the time works in that in a minute. So now I've got my pot full of water, just going to sit on the stove. At the same time the sausage is cooking. Just let the pot sit there, let the sausage cook. Let's take a look. Okay, nice and very brown. Oil in the bottom is what you want. Brown bits at the bottom as well. Very brown, that's really nice. Looking really good. Very brown, very brown. Okay, so we're going to take the sausages out, then we're going to cut them. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the flame to the skillet. So I turned off the flame here. We don't want this to get any hotter right now. We're going to come back to it. You might see some smoke. We're going to actually reheat it again later, but I don't want to have it heated right now. Now if your pot is like mine and has some grease in it, a little bit of grease or enough, you can just go ahead and pour that grease off. Some of it. You want to leave some in the bottom, but getting rid of most of it is good. We're going to leave some in the bottom. A nice glisten so that when we cook the garlic, you can get all the garlic flavor in the oil itself. If you're wondering what I do with that grease, I then put it into the freezer actually. That way no ants can get in there. It's nice and solid and it gets ready for the next one. You can find some freezer space, that's a really good place for it. So you can cut them as thin as you like. Usually I cut them into fourths. Once you get all the sausages cut into fourths, and you'll be ready to tackle the next step, the garlic with all the vegetables. Okay, so let's move on. We've got the meat cut, the meat's ready to go. Now we got to get the pan back and ready for it to receive the meat. Okay, now we're back to the pot, so I'm going to start by turning the heat back on. A good medium-high heat is good as well at this point. We want to really cook those vegetables. We're going to cook the meat, put the meat back in first. But before we do that, Here is our garlic ready in the press, garlic press. Add a nice garlic flavor to our meal. Really loving the garlic. One thing, if you're wondering where this recipe came from, I actually found it on the package of a turkey Italian sausage that I had when I was alone and single. So we're going to cut these up, we're going to take them out, and it doesn't matter, it's nice and smashed. I can still take the inside here, take that and put it in. Nice and smashed, nice and good. Now my hands were cleaned, I washed them before I started cooking. Now they're going to smell like garlic. Ooh, I love that smell. It's one thing is when I go to work and I've cooked the dish in the morning, cook some of the garlic, I love how the garlic smells as I'm going to work. I can smell it on my hands. I like to have clean hands going to the skillet. This is why you want some oil in there so that we can see a nice little browning on the garlic. Just a little bit brown. You should be able to really smell the garlic aroma at this point. Once you got that, you can smell the garlic. They're nice and brown. So these are 2 cloves. Right now we're going to add the wine. You're going to add about 1/3 cup of wine. About 1/3 there. I generally just kind of pour until it looks about the right height. I know what it's supposed to look like. And don't worry, you put too much in, it's going to boil away. A lot of it. The rest will get soaked up. So what I'm doing now, if you don't know, it's called deglazing the pan. Maybe it's not easy for you to see, but there's some parts. As I move it over, you can see the brown bits are still stuck to the pot. And as I use the spatula that's stiff and firm, and the wine, what happens is the wine, the alcohol in the wine, reacts with all those brown bits and picks them off for you and puts them into your broth, which is exactly what you want. You want a nice broth with all those brown bits. So what I'm doing is, as I'm doing this, I'm feeling it. That's nice and smooth there, but I feel if there's any rough spots that it doesn't smoothly go over the pan. That's where all the brown bits are. That's where the brown bits are. You want to make sure you get those into the pot. Now I've done many different iterations of this from that original recipe. I've modified some from the original recipe I saw in that package of a turkey sausage. So this is what I find the best. I find that it's best to, after you get the wine going, nice and hot, you want to stick your sausage back in. Why am I doing that? Because I want the sausage to get most of that wine flavor. Now I've done it before where it wasn't the sausage getting that wine flavor, but it was the vegetables. Didn't quite taste as good. So this secret is make sure to put the meat back in before you start sauteing your vegetables. And you are going to saute the vegetables with it. Okay, while I'm getting those ready, while this is cooking, I'm going to show you a quick and easy tip on how to clean out your garlic press. Well, you can see here my garlic press. If you look really closely at it, you can see it's still got some garlic inside. A little bit of garlic in there. Now I learned the hard way that if you just try and wash it regular, it's just the garlic's going to sit in there, it's going to get hard and crusty, you're going to make it hard for you to use later. So what you want to do is you want to clean it out. How I clean it out? I take a scrubbing brush. You can see scrubbing, it's got a lot of little bristles, so I'm going to stick it right into the holes. Stick it right through the holes. That's going to clean out your garlic. Now I usually want to do it right after I use the garlic press, so I use the garlic press. Pour in the meat, get a place where I can just get a rest. Clean the garlic press, and now if you take a look at it, you'll see it's fairly clean. You can also rinse it off. Okay, now I took the sausage, got a nice glaze on it. The wine's been reduced. You can barely tell it's liquid anymore at that point. Now it's time to start with putting in the bell pepper. I usually saute the bell pepper first, because the bell pepper takes longer to cook. Gonna spread it around for a bit and probably set it in there for 2 minutes of cooking. Don't worry, I forgot about our pot of water. It's not ready yet. I'll tell you when we're ready to turn on that bad boy. It actually helps with the timing of the pasta sauce, or actually it's Italian sausage that we're cooking. Yeah, the bell pepper's been sauteed a little bit. We're going to put in the onion. And the trick is you're going to want to, with the onion, you're going to saute, you're going to separate as it cooks. Don't worry about separating it before time unless you want to fry all the time and waste your time in the kitchen. And you can see it nice, sauce we made with the wine is also getting on top of them. We're just going to stir it around a bit. I'm not going to try and separate it yet. You see, we're just going to let them sit in there. We're going to let the onion cook as well. While you're cooking and waiting, something else you can do. You can add, I'm going to add some basil to it. Let the basil cook a little bit. It's dried basil. So I'm doing about half a tablespoon of basil. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some ground black pepper. Freshly ground. So you notice I don't usually use measuring tool here with the pepper. I just put it in. But if you want a measurement, about a quarter teaspoon is usually good for black pepper. It's a good flavoring adjustment. If you like more pepper, you can do more. If you like less pepper, you can do less. That feels like enough. That's probably closer to half a teaspoon, and that's what we like. If you want like a quarter, that's fine. I'm going to help that and get mixed in. At this point, you start smelling the basil aroma as well when you're cooking. So you can see I'm splitting apart the onion now because it's been cooked a little bit. Once it gets cooked a little bit, you can use your spatula to separate them so they're not all together. But it's going to be very saucy, very liquidy. The liquid is the great part for spaghetti, and it also works great if you like to dip your toast in that tomato sauce. It's a very good one to use. It's going to have lots of flavor in it. If you like your tomato sauce more saucy than I'm going to prepare, if you want more sauce for other things like dipping stuff in it, you can use 2 cans of tomato sauce. My wife decided she didn't like it so saucy. She wanted more meaty and vegetable-y. So we only use 1 can of tomato sauce. Still want to use a nice can, 1 whole 16-ounce can of tomatoes. Canned tomatoes. Oh, in China, didn't have basil. So in China, instead of basil, I had to use cilantro, which honestly wasn't too bad. You can easily make this dish with cilantro. It's still going to taste really fine, really good. Use some fresh cilantro in China because you don't really have the dried spices. Alright, next thing I'm going to do, now that these look pretty well cooked, yep, pretty well sauteed, we're going to add in the tomato sauces, and that's where I feel like the cooking is finished. Okay, the way I do my 14.5-ounce can of tomatoes, so I like to do the tomatoes first. Actually, let some of the tomatoes cook on the high heat. Let them cook on the high heat. Now, these ones are a little too big for my taste, so I like to break them up. You see I'm kind of splitting them in half as best I can with my spatula. Because I think they're a little too big. Maybe you might like them big and keep them nice and big, but I think they're too big, so I cut them up in half about a little bit. Stir them around. So that's what I say, kind of stops the sauteing process. Now you got some liquid in there. When you get the liquid water, you're not sauteing anymore. Instead, you are now going to simmer. So now that I got the tomato, it's in there. Next, some tomato sauce. Pour it all in there. You got some good tomato sauce, good tomatoes. If you want your sauce more saucy, you can add another can of tomato sauce. But we find that we like it just like this without so much sauce. And a lot meaty and vegetable-y, especially the meat. The kids like the meat, not the vegetables so much. They're kids. Alright, so now what you're going to do, you're going to get it up to a simmer. You're going to let this boil. Then when it's done boiling, you're going to turn it down to a very, very, very small simmer. As small as it'll go. Oh, there's the big boiling. So let's turn it all the way down as far as I can to a nice, slow simmer. Now we're going to let that cook. Now if you're just cooking this alone, we're going to let this cook for about 20 to 30 minutes. And while that is simmering, this is how I actually time it. Now I'm going to start my water. Start boiling that water. Once the spaghetti is done, you're ready to eat. Okay, now that you got the spaghetti getting ready to cook, you have the water that's going to boil. Now it'll take some time, then once it's boiled, you got another 11 minutes or so for the spaghetti to cook till it's nice and al dente. Cook just as the package says. Now you got some downtime. You can relax, do what you like. At this time though, I like to add my kids' favorite side dish, and that is garlic Parmesan toast. The garlic Parmesan toast is a really rather simple and easy recipe. It takes no time at all to get it ready. Here are the ingredients. I like to go with spreadable butter, makes it easier. Challenge is a really good brand. Garlic powder, Parmesan cheese. I like other brands without the store had this time. And your favorite kind of bread. In this case, we're using a white country buttermilk bread. That is my son and daughter's favorite bread to eat. Okay, so here I've got 5 slices of bread. I'm just going to cut right through all 5 slices, make it in half. You don't have to, but I find it's better to have smaller sized breads. That way, if you want 1.5 slices, don't have to break 1 in half. Okay, once you've gotten that, next thing you do is you want to spread on the butter. Make sure you completely cover the entire bread with the butter. This is something I learned when I used to work at a restaurant. Wonderful restaurant. It was very good. They made Italian food. I learned to make, well, not spaghetti. I learned to make pizza. I learned to make grinder sandwiches. Unfortunately, I can't recreate grinder sandwiches or pizza anymore. Not because I don't know how, but because I don't have the ingredients that that restaurant had. So make sure you spread it nicely all around, all the way to the edges. Why? Because you don't want the sides of the bread getting brown. Butter is going to keep the bread from getting too brown. That's why we're using butter. I learned this trick from that restaurant. This is the way they made, well, they had a whole garlic cheese spread they used, and to spread it, made sure they spread it over the entire surface of the bread. Mainly because if it's not fully covered, then there's a problem. Some of the bread on the outside especially will get burned. So make sure, and I've actually done this with not spreadable butter before, but what you do is you melt it first, and then you can dip each slice of bread into the melted butter. It works about the same. Either way you slice it. I like to use spreadable because that way it's easy to spread, don't have to melt it. Lazy, don't want to clean another pan. You know how it is. You're on the go, you want things fast. So nice spreadable butter is better. Okay, now we got our bread all nice and buttered. I'm going to put it onto my famous cookie sheet with the foil underneath so it catches all the junk so we don't have to clean the pan afterwards. Because I'm a lazy person. You know, save time as much as you can. We're going to place on all. Oh, there's also the grills. The grills keep the bread from getting on all the toppings we're going to put on next. So, you know, you don't have to do the grills. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You can just place them in straight on the foil, and that works as well. This elevates a little so the bottom gets a little bit done. If you put it directly on the foil, the bottom gets not done the bottom, yes, gets not done at all. Yeah. Not the way my dad likes it. He likes the bottom a little toasted. So actually, in that case, I actually toast the bread first on the bottom in the broiler. And then I flip it over and do all the bread spread and all that. So there's the bread nice and ready to go. What's next? Garlic powder. Now in this case, all I do is I'm just going to sprinkle it on. There's a little bit over there. You're not going to be able to see much, how much it is. I don't even see how much it is very much. But I just want to make sure I see it. You can hear it hit the foil beneath. Get a nice coating. If I were to guess, I would say I might use a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons or so of that. Once that's on there, that's nice. We're going to put on the Parmesan cheese, the wonderful Parmesan cheese. And so we got to make sure it's nice and broken up. That's why I'm shaking it. Nice and broken up, nice and loose. Even if it's not perfectly loose. And spread it on. You're going to sprinkle it on, then you're going to spread it like you did the butter. You want to get nice and even Parmesan cheese around the bread. Because again, that's going to help to keep the bread itself from browning. You'll see when I do this in the oven, in the broil section, that it's going to get close to browning, especially on the edges. The edges will brown first. So we got a nice Parmesan spread going there, so I just want to even it out. I use my hands. Yes, they were washed nice and clean. Make sure you always make your hands nice and clean before doing this. So just spread out nice and evenly. Ready for your garlic Parmesan toast. That one's a little light. Also, I can feel it's a little light on Parmesan. So I'm going to add some more to that one. A couple of them are a little light. It's okay if you put on too much. Too much is fine. This one's a little light as well. Okay. And all the extra just kind of goes to the bottom where it's going to cook and not be a problem for you. what you're going to do, and I'll show it to you as well. We're going to put it in the oven on broil, and trust me, you don't want to put it in too long. Usually less than 1 minute. You might cook it in 1 to 2 minutes, depending on how far your rack is from the broiler. Now as we're back, I think the pot is ready and boiled with water, and we'll take a look at the spaghetti sauce at the same time. Alright, take a look at that sauce that's going on. Well, Italian sausage, mixed in with lots of vegetables and sauteed. Ours is pretty thick. This is pretty the way we like it, nice and thick. Stir it around a bit, make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. That's good sauce. You can see the steam coming off. That means it's been simmering and cooking really slowly. All those flavors slowly mixed together. Slow cooking is really good. At the same time, if you can't hear it or you can't see it, let me show you our water is nice and boiling and it's ready for the pasta. Alright, now with the pasta, when I made this in China, I had to go to a special store. I didn't do the bread in China, but I went to China. I had to do this at a special store to find the noodles that look like spaghetti. Special American store. At the time, early 2000s, they didn't have very many American stores at the time. So I was lucky I was able to find spaghetti. The sauce is also like the Fullstar kielbasa. I think that's the one I ended up using. Actually, it was hard to find there too. I got lucky and I found it in the American store, along with cereal and milk and some other things I needed. Yeah, so I found out and I found the spaghetti. Spaghetti is very important to cook. Pour it right into the pot. Make sure you set your timer. And again, when the spaghetti has cooked and finished, it's ready to take out. And then you're ready to dish out the sauce on top of it. It's completely done. For my spaghetti, I'm looking at the package and it says it's going to be ready in 9 minutes. I'm going to set my timer to 9 minutes. Be sure to stir up the spaghetti a couple times while it's cooking and stir up the sauce while it's cooking too. So right now I'm going to check for spaghetti doneness. I'm going to take one noodle and see if it's nice and soft. A little bit firm in the middle still, so you're going to need to make it cook maybe another 2 minutes or so. Take one out for testing purposes. That's good and soft. Now it's time to dish it out. One way to dish it out is to put it directly into a colander and all the water drains out. Another way is to take it directly out. Scoop out a bit, let the water drain off a bit. Spread it in your bowl. Now if you want, you can add some olive oil. That'll keep it from sticking. If you're not going to stir it right away or put the noodles on it, the sauce on it right away, you can keep it from sticking that way. From here, now I'm going to put on some sauce. Now the first year I'm going to make for my wife, because it has both the sausage and the vegetables. Let's pour some sauce right over the noodles, and there you have Italian sausage over noodles. Okay, here's the bread we got. We're going to turn the oven on to a nice broil, full broil. Hit start. Gonna put it right in. You might have to wait a little bit for the oven to get nice and hot there. You can see my pan's a little low compared to what people might do for broil. So I like to take a little longer for it to get cooked. And that's gonna take about 2 minutes to cook. I'll be back in 2 minutes to see how it's doing. Okay, you can see my nice little plate of spaghetti. Lots of vegetables, some sausage in there. And you can tell I cook at my son's plate. No vegetables, just sausage.
Oui. Oui. It tastes good. That's great.
Okay, now let's look at my daughter's. You can see my daughter's plate. Same thing. Where'd all the vegetables go, Camellia?
On your plate.
Why?
I don't like them.
So the kids don't like the vegetables, so they don't get them. We'll have other recipes where they eat vegetables. Now this isn't one of my daughter's favorite dishes. She'll eat it. What do you think? Oh, let's check on the bread. Alright, we're looking at the bread now. The timer went off. Gonna take the timer off. If you look at it, it is heating up. But if you look, it's still not completely done. You can see it's starting to brown. Once it's starting to brown, it means it's really close to being done. So we're going to go a little longer. Once it starts getting brown, it goes really quick. So you always want to watch it. If you don't get it right in that nice done brown time, it's going to get burnt. And you definitely don't want it to be burnt. Now you can see some of the middle ones. Usually those are the ones starting to get brown first. See, especially the back. You can see how those... You can see in the middle back they've gotten brown. So I'm actually going to rotate it a bit. Rotate a bit. I'm going to rotate it so that the other ones get more done. Side ones get the least amount of doneness, which is actually perfect for my family because my daughter doesn't like them toasted very much. Neither does my son, but the rest of us like it toasted. Alright, that should be enough. Once it starts going brown, it doesn't take very long. The outside ones look great for my kids, the middle ones look great for my wife and myself. It is done. It's ready to serve. Okay, take a look at all the bread. There it is. The middle ones are nice and done enough for my wife and myself. Those ones are good. The ones on the outside are good for the kids. They don't like them done very much. Now let's see what the kids think of the flavor of this bread.
That tastes really good.
Bedtime, Camellia.
Bread. Butter.
Let's see how much she eats it. She must really like it.
Butter. Butter.